Hello, gin friends, and welcome to Tuesday, the 9th day of June 2020. Now, for anyone watching for the first time, June is my 30-day salute to gin in the month of June. And as such, I've taken the opportunity to rename the month of June to June. Thank you all very much for tuning in. However, as the nature of June for this video and all month long is based on showcasing an adult beverage product, you really need to be the age of majority where you live in order to keep following along. So for example, I live here in Ontario, and you would need to be 19 years or older to be able to follow along with June. All right, so if you're not 19 in Ontario, if you're not the age of majority where you live, I appreciate your interest. We can talk again in a few years, but for now, it's time to say goodbye. For everybody else, let's begin, and we're off to Spain. Now, did you know that the Spanish are the third largest drinkers of gin in Europe, and that also makes Spain the largest European market for gin? The Spanish also have quite the connection to quinine. Quinine is, when I say quinine, I'm talking tonic water, or the basis for what goes into tonic water. As in the 1600s, the story goes that the Spanish wife of the Viceroy of Peru fell ill with malaria, and it was local tribal leaders there that used the bark from the local Gi-Une tree, which quinine is derived from, to produce a medicinal drink that helped the queen get better. The queen survived, of course, and she then brought that tree water recipe with her back to Europe. So quite the tie there, if that story is true. Today, throughout Spain, there are literally hundreds of different gin brands available. And Spain itself has over 12 distillers, and that number continues to grow. The Spanish gin Xóriga from the island of Mallorca has been granted something very special. The European Union has granted that region to have a geographical indication that they use to produce gin de Mahon. And that's a big deal because there's only 3 what we call GIs, geographic indications for gin within the EU, period. So only 3, period. Spain's got 1. So we've established that the Spaniards love gin. Cool. But how do they like to drink it? Well, essentially, only one way, surprisingly, and that's through the gin tonic. And yes, I said that correctly. The Spanish dropped the word "and" from G&T, and over in Spain, it's referred to simply as gin tonic. And they like their gin tonic strong. They usually use a 50-50 ratio between tonic water and gin. They produce it in a large bulbous fishbowl style glass, lots of ice. So they do things a little bit differently. Regarding the tonic itself, several brands are available, but the overwhelmingly most popular one is Fever Tree. Again, you can get Fentimans there, they have Boylans, they have a few others, but Fever Tree, that's the one to beat in Spain. And where things get really interesting is the creativity that the Spaniards are using for garnishes on their gin. It's not just a little slice of lime or lemon that you see here in North America or in other places. In Spain, peppercorn, star anise, nutmeg, all kind of things are being used to zhuzh up the whole drink. So, a bit of a different approach to gin tonic. Some other quick facts on gin in Spain. Spain's the largest importer and consumer of United Kingdom gin in the EU. In Spain, there's about 280,000 bars, and that translates to about 1 for every 165 people, and that's the highest ratio of bar to people in the European Union. Spain's the 3rd largest consumer of gin per person per liter in the world, at 0.6 liters per person. So just some things to keep in context in terms of the population and how much gin's being consumed. And lastly, something I found interesting, in Spain, 35% of the consumption of gin is in bars and cafes. So it's not just clubs and pubs and the nightlife that speaks to gin. It's actually a part of their food and their eating quality as well. So with all this in mind, let's dive into today's tasting. The Bottega 01 Spanish Valencia Orange. Now I chose this purposely to be different and to showcase what's being done differently with the gin worldwide. Bottega is owned by Barcelona Brands SL, and Bottega itself is a combination of some carefully selected botanicals with juniper, hops, cardamom, and coriander as the key ingredients, all distilled in copper pots and reportedly in small batches. That's not really a legal term, but we'll take them at their word that they're doing it in small batches. The recipe uses a neutral grain spirit base and is inspired by the first documented recipe for Ginevra, which dates back to 1552. And for those of you that have been following along throughout the first week of June, you may recall that Ginevra is what the Dutch referred to as that first drink that was juniper inspired. I encourage you to find that video on my YouTube channel or my Facebook pages to learn more about Ginevra. Additionally, now for this gin, Spanish Valencia oranges are also added, giving to the color of the bottle. This is not a colored bottle, this is the color of the gin. So what does it smell and taste like? Well, let's dive in. To start off, of course, has that orange hue you can see in the bottle and in my glass. On the nose, it's clean, light intensity. So it doesn't, it's not overpowering when you take your first sniff. Aromas of orange, big time. Lemon, some lemongrass, getting light juniper, fresh herbs, maybe a little bit of baking spice. Let's go in for a taste. On the palate, almost a sense of it being a touch off dry. So maybe just a little touch of sweetness, likely from all the oranges being infused. Getting flavors of orange, of course, some elderflower, so floral notes, elderflower, lemon, some fresh herbaceous notes, maybe thyme, definitely some anise in there, that's almost a licorice-like flavor, cinnamon, coriander. It's nice. On the finish, that's a medium finish with that lingering orange and anise flavor profile. So, nice and summery. Sunny day, sunny drink. So there you have it. Bottega Spanish Valencia Orange Gin. The LCBO stock number 12668. This, to keep in mind, is a 700 milliliter bottle, so a little different than the 750s that we normally see here. Price $42.95, so not bargain basement, but again, this is not something that's going to break the bank. I've looked, I cannot find it for my friends in Quebec at the SAQ, so for now, I'm only seeing it at the LCBO. Something to consider as we get into warmer weather. I want to thank you all for joining in today. I want to remind you all to keep following Somm for All on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Check out YouTube for latest videos. And a gentle reminder, on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be hosting a live gin cocktail hour, making cocktails based on the products that I taste this week. And I'll be making one, maybe two cocktails inspired by this Bottega Spanish gin. Thank you again. Be safe. Be well, everyone. Cheers from Somm for All.